Uh, and we are live. Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to Business Learnings. In this video, I'll talk about which banking stocks should you invest in. Which banking stocks could be a multi-bagger in the long term. Because short-term money making is making money in the short term. It You have to take a lot of risks, a lot of speculations. Therefore, we are value investors. We try to dig value stocks which give us good returns in the long term. So, coming back to which banks could be a good buy. Before that, I'll just tell you the basic business model of a bank. So, a bank raises funds, right? A bank raises funds from people like us through their CASA accounts. Like CASA accounts means current and savings accounts. So we open our savings account balance with banks, and we always keep some money into it, right? And banks use that money to extend loans to the people who need it. Okay. First is this, and second is we also make fixed deposits, term deposits with the banks, right? So these are the sources of revenue. Third could be we use banking services, the transaction charge, the net banking fees, the transaction fees on cards. Uh, if a bank has an advisory division, then charges of that. So all those service oriented things. So these are the primary sources of revenue for the bank. Now, what are the sources of costs of a bank? A bank the major cost of a bank is giving interest to us people who have opened the deposits, and uh, also the bank gives loans to other people, and other people as well as businesses. So they get EMIs or interests on those loans, and usually the interests that banks charge on their loans are way higher than the interests they give on deposits. So this difference is called the NIM, or the net interest margin. And if a bank has a decent enough net interest margin, it means that it is very good at operationalizing its business, right? Means that its efficiency is better, and this might be a better bank. Now, a bank could give loans to two kinds of parties. First are retail people like us. For example, I need home loan, I need car loan or education loan. I reach a bank and I apply for a loan. Other people who need other parties who need loans for their survival could be businesses, corporates. Like they need a lot of money, right? For example, I'm a student. I might need an education loan of about 10 lakhs, right? But businesses, they need loans of sizes of thousands of crores. So, you know, just one processing, and you have already booked a loan of 1,000 crore rupees. Imagine the kind of interest, the profits that a bank can earn. That's why banks try to do a lot of corporate lending. But this practice has came back to haunt the banks in the recent years, and that's why a lot of banks are suffering. So about 4 minutes have already passed, and many of you might be thinking about, please come to the point and tell me these stocks. I'm coming to that, but before that, you have to understand how the bank works. How does it make profit, so that you do not make a mistake in buying banking stocks. Now, the banks, which give a lot of corporate lending, they earn a lot of profit, but there is a catch here. The problem is, even if one of these corporates default, this is going to be a huge hole in the bank's balance sheet, in the bank's profits, in its P&L, in its cash flow. It's going to affect very harmfully. It's going to affect very harmfully the bank. So, even though retail loans are more expensive to give, because for the same 1,000 crore amount of loan that I'll be giving, that I can have from one corporate, I probably will have to give it to about 1 lakh people to get the loan amount of that size. Managing 1 lakh loan accounts is, there will be costs associated with it. Therefore, retail loans are costlier to maintain by the banks, and that's why a lot of banks do not try to uh, uh, have a lot of retail loans. But that is the right way. Why? Because if several people default, no, it does not affect the bank as much as one big corporate defaults, right? Therefore, always, whenever you are analyzing a bank stock, apart from other factors, always look into how much in the overall loan portfolio of the bank, what percentage of loans are retail loans and what percentage of loans are corporate loans. The banks which are consistently trying to improve their loan book, the banks which are trying to navigate from corporate to retail loan books, are going to do very good, extremely well in long term, right? I'll talk about Yes Bank. It had a lot of corporate exposure, 80, 90%. 90% of its loans were corporate loans. And when one of them started defaulting, a lot of them followed suit. And, Yes Bank had a trouble. You see, its valuations went from 350 rupees to now it's trading at 40, 50 rupees. So if you have a lot of corporate loans, you are doomed in the long term. Now there is one bank, IDFC First Bank. If you look at it, it was a merger of Capital First, which was an NBFC, and IDFC Bank. If you look at its loan book from the past several quarters, they have been consistently trying to keep their corporate lending down, to cut short their corporate lending, and to increase their retail lending. Right. So this at the same time, they are also not increasing the size of their loan book. So their loan book is approximately 1 lakh crore rupees worth. uh, 1 lakh crore rupees of loans they have already lended this much amount of money to people and corporate. About 50%, more than 50, about 55% of that used to be corporate, and 45% of that used to be retail lending. They have been deliberately, constantly making efforts to reduce the corporate lending and increase the retail lending, so much so that now the retail lending has reached close to uh, 50%, and the rest 50% is the corporate lending, and they have the target of increasing it in the coming years as well. So much so that retail loans overcompensate for the corporate loans. So even if the corporate loans default, it is going to be a very small portion, and the bank is going to survive. So that is the principle that I really liked about this bank. uh, a lot of other banks are also trying to replicate this model, and this model is going to help a lot. Several other things that I noticed about IDFC First Bank, I browsed through its YouTube channel. I saw that its CEO V Vidyanathan, uh, he goes and he talks to the customers to find out what their pain points are. So he was just wandering in Mumbai, and he talked to a taxi driver and asked how if the taxi driver needs any kind of loan, and if how does he fulfill his needs of loans. So he came to know that those taxi drivers are paying 30, 40, 50, more than that percent of interests on their loans, which is huge. Compare that to personal loan rates of 15 to 20%. So demand is the demand of retail loans is way higher in India, and it is going to shoot up. The supply is not enough, and IDFC First Bank is trying to do just that. It is trying to fulfill that demand supply gap, and that's why I think that is going to grow a lot. The good thing is that they are not focusing on the short term growth. I am saying so because the size of their loan book has not increased in the past several quarters. It has remained almost the same. They have decided that first they will reduce the corporate lending, increase the retail lending. Only then they are going to increase the loan books. Because if they increase loan books without shifting this corporate to retail loans, they the overall amount of the corporate loans is going to be significantly bigger, and if anything fails, you know things will not be good. So that's why we have not seen a lot of growth in this bank. But be rest assured that this bank is going to see tremendous growth in the future. Uh, if you look at its revenue and its profit, profit through the years, it is also seeing a consistent upward trend. Uh, yeah, HDFC Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank. Just look at their loan portfolio. You'll understand why these banks are succeeding while other banks are not succeeding as much as they are, because they have a lot of these successful banks. They have a lot of retail exposure. So the take home lesson for you from this video should be: first, whenever you are analyzing a bank stock, uh, if it is serving the retail as well as corporate sector, make sure that you see how the shift is happening between these two. Second, uh, look at the NPAs, an NPA problem, and I will make another video on the NPA problem that Indian banks are facing. It's a huge problem, and most of the NPAs are coming from the corporates, so you get the idea of that. So the take home lessons were: first, the retail versus corporate exposure. Second, the net interest margin, which is a performance indicator of a bank. The difference between the rates at which it lends versus the rates at which it lends and the rates that it gives to its depositors. So this difference is the net interest margin. Also look into this. Uh, okay, so these two things, coupled with management quality of the bank, research on the board of directors, the CEO, the track record, their history, these three things are going to be way more than enough for you to analyze a banking stock, to put it in your watch list, or maybe decide to probably buy it on the next dip. So that will be all for from my side in this video. Thanks a lot for watching. If you haven't subscribed so far, please subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching.